use of low level light therapy or the hair growth laser. Let me tell you, laser for this we call laser is a misnomer. It is light amplification of and stimulation of emitted radiation. That is the LACR acronym. Here there is no amplification of light. It is just become a fashion, or it's commonly called or referred to as laser. This is not a laser light, it's a cold light. There is no amplification here. In fact, the light is lesser in intensity. So though commonly called as a laser, this is a different kind of light. It falls under a different classification, a different category of low level light therapy. Now the queries we received were on whether it is effective or not, whether this method is scientific or it's an empirical therapy, how frequently it should be used, what is the protocol. Different manufacturers suggest different protocols for use, whether there are studies, whether the studies are double blind, whether they are placebo controlled, whether they are multicentric trials. So only these kind of trials will have value. What is the benefit for hair loss management, for hair growth? Can it be used for hair transplant patients? What is the choice of devices? There are different kinds of devices that are available. So what is the choice of devices? So these are various things that we will try to consider to understand what is the effect of laser light. You should look at just standing in the sun. What happens when you go and stand in the sun? The skin starts making vitamin D, right? So when your skin starts making vitamin D, this is happening just because the sun rays are falling on the skin and they are stimulating a biological process in the cells. The same mechanism or a similar mechanism is happening when you are using low level light therapy. The leaves and plants also take in energy of the sun along with carbon dioxide, undergo photosynthesis and make food or glycogen for the plants. The visible range of light between 500 nanometers to 1100 nanometers is not absorbed by the melanin in the skin, by the hemoglobin in the blood, or by water in the cells. So this light has got what we call as an optical window or an opportunity to directly reach inside the cells. It reaches to the mitochondria in the cells, and the endoplasmic reticulum in the mitochondria has got ribosomes. Imagine the school diagrams you used to draw of the cell and used to make small round dots on the endoplasmic reticulum. These are the ribosomes. The ribosomes are photosensitive and they have the photosensitive receptors which carry out the biostimulation of cells on receiving the light energy. Biostimulation or biomodulation is used inflammation, for nerve regeneration, for osseointegration of implants which are placed into the bone. Integration of these implants and bone healing is better on exposure to this energy. So this has got many and multiple applications. We have all heard something of paradoxical hypertrichosis. Paradoxical hypertrichosis is an event that happens when in the clinics we are attempting laser hair removal. There is a suboptimal or subtherapeutic dose of this hair removal laser light being delivered to the surrounding skin, which makes the surrounding hair coarse and thicker or grow faster. Occurs in about 0.6 to 10% cases. Most laser wavelengths between 1 to 10 joules of fluence or between 3 to 90 watts per square centimeter is what carries this kind of energy, carries the spillover energy to surrounding tissues. Subtherapeutic injury caused by the laser releases factors that induce follicular angiogenesis, like raised heat shock proteins, HSP27, which regulate cell growth and differentiation. So this kind of subtherapeutic energy is what we are using in the hair growth laser. Now let's see the biomodulation effects of a laser. So two kinds of light energy are in use. One is the regular or the ablative lasers that we use in all our treatments. These lasers convert energy into heat and use for destroying the cells or ablation of the cells. The wattage of these lasers is high, and if you deliver 24 watts per square centimeter, you can cause second degree burns. If you deliver 13 watts per square centimeter, you can cause first degree burns. Low power or density is defined between half a watt to 1 watt per centimeter. So every square centimeter, the energy we use for photobiostimulation is between half a watt to 1 watt. This is the level that can even be used on an open wound. On an area covered with skin, you could use even up to 4 watts per square centimeter. But the lasers we use for hair growth are only half a watt per square centimeter. You can say that a night lamp in your bedroom would be 1 watt, and this laser is half a watt in energy. What is the heat damage? Let's take a look at the range of heat damage that can occur with different kinds of heat, so that we have an idea as to where we stand. The photoactivation or cellular activation, the athermal and atraumatic effect is achieved only when the heat is below 40 degrees centigrade. Keeping the heat below 40 degrees centigrade achieves you the desired photostimulation. If you raise this energy and you go between 40 to 48 degrees centigrade, you can have reversible protein denaturation in the cells. If you go beyond 48 degrees centigrade, you grow between 48 to 58 degrees centigrade, you get degradation of the protein. Beyond 58 degrees centigrade, you get denaturation and coagulation of the protein. At 100 degrees centigrade, you get vaporization of the tissues, and at 200, you get carbonization of the tissues. So that is what happens with increasing heat. And our device always delivers heat which is much, much below 40 degrees centigrade. So low energy photons, they are absorbed by the cell organelle and they result in photoactivation or photobiostimulation. That is the principle. We are trying to deliver only low energy photons. Andre Meister in 1967, the Hungarian physician, discovered the benefits of low light laser in growing hair. He was trying to study the carcinogenic effects of laser on the backs of shaved mice in the lab. And depending on the size and the weight of the mice, he selected 694 frequency ruby laser and applied that on the shaven backs of the mice. To his surprise, this started resulting in rapid regrowth of hair on the backs of the mice that were subject to the laser as compared to the control group of the mice which were not subject to the laser. He documented this effect way back in 1967. But there is a huge gap between this effect or this scientific event being applied for the benefit of our patients. Why was the gap? The gap is because the helium neon laser or the HENE laser was the only source that could give such low intensity of light. There was no steady source to create such a low intensity light as and when you desired. Now the things changed in 1998 when Professor Haribalan designed the LED for NASA. NASA wanted a LED light, and when this light emitting diode was designed by Professor Haribalan, we got a breakthrough. The NASA LED created light which was less divergent. It was not like exactly correlated beam like a laser, divergent than laser. It gave a stable output of photons. It was quadrochromatic, though not like monochromatic. All the waves being in the same frequency in laser is monochromatic. Quasi-chromatic is nearly same with very little variation. And this became the low-level light therapy. So it was renamed by US photobiologist Kendrick Smith from low-level laser therapy to low-level light therapy. FDA created a separate classification for this kind of light and named it as LLLT. The behavior of this light with respect to the cells is extremely unique. The Arndt-Schulz curve or the biphasic response, the law of Arndt-Schulz curve is followed by this light. The law says that weak stimuli give excitation while strong stimuli result in retardation of cellular function. What does this mean? This means that when you're studying the wattage or the power of the laser light, below 2 joules per square centimeter of power, you don't get any stimulation or any effect in the cells. The moment you start crossing 2 joules, from 2 joules up to 4 joules per square centimeter, you get a very good response. And when you cross 4 joules and you go to 5 joules and beyond, suddenly the response drops. There is no benefit at all. In fact, the stimulation reverses into retardation of the effect. So you have a sweet spot between 2 to 4 joules. So 4 joules is the maximum aim to achieve. The 4 joules per square centimeter is the maximum energy level you can achieve for best results, or keep it between 2 to 4. Now comparing this with energy output of the device. If you have a device having 80 diodes and half a watt each of the diodes, the average surface area of the human scalp is 250 square centimeters. So it would deliver 2 joules per square centimeter of energy and take around 30 minutes to deliver the energy into the cells. The penetration is very low. Penetration of this energy is hardly a millimeter or more from the skin. It doesn't penetrate to any deeper. So 80 diodes with half a milliwatt energy each, used for 30 minutes on an average scalp area of 250 square centimeters, is the ideal device or the ideal setting of this power. Some device manufacturers suggest that this therapy can be done every day. Most of these device manufacturers are from the Western population of the world with Caucasian skin type. Skin is thinner and more white. This reflects light. It absorbs light less. Darker skin will absorb the light more. So in darker skin, you would require lesser frequency of the laser therapy. In our clinic in Indian patients, we have used the therapy once a week or twice a week, once in 3 days for 25 to 30 minutes with a 42 diode device, which completes the therapy in 12 to 15 minutes, or a 82 diode device, which will complete the therapy within 25 to 30 minutes. The device has got auto shut, so you not worry. An excellent review of this biphasic dose response is presented by Hong in his paper published 2009. Now, various studies and clinical trials. Lexington International of USA, the company, conducted a lot of trials on the device. They were the first to manufacture the laser comb and submitted the documentation to US FDA. Since the light used in treatment and generated by LED was in the visible NIR spectrum, it was deemed as non-significant risk by US FDA. There were no disastrous effects on the human skin on exposure to this light. Hence, the device was cleared for human use. The clearance comes under 510K. So the 510 clearance means the device is safe for human use. It is approved for safety in human use. This is not an approval for the hair growth. The FDA is not approved it for hair growth. The FDA is approved for the safety of the device. Luo, Sun, and Zhang studied the effects of this laser in detail and documented that low-level laser therapy has effects on oxidative stress. It regulates oxidative stress. It regulates homeostasis or internal environment of the cells. It reduces or controls, modulates the expression of IGF and TGF beta 1. Though these studies were carried out in muscle tissue, the corollary is applicable for hair. In hair, if this also gives you the benefit of reducing oxidative stress and homeostasis and controlling the expression of IGF and TGF beta, is going to be an added advantage for us. The light also enhanced the activity of superoxide dismutase enzyme and decreased the malonyl dialdehyde levels. So these are giving you better indication or better reduction of oxidative stress. The effects of the laser light were recorded under various biological terminologies or biological effects: thermal effects, biochemical effects, bioelectric effects, and bioenergetic effects were all studied. It improved nerve conduction. It improved capillary dilatation or vasodilatation, attracting more blood flow. It increased ATP production. It released nitric oxide, which was bound inside the cells, lowered the ROS or reactive oxygen species, increased fibroblast proliferation, collagen and elastin synthesis, which is again better for hair formation. Had effect on mast cell degranulation, cytokine and chemokine trophic factors, improved macrophage activity, keratinocyte activity, increased RNA DNA synthesis, which is again good for production of new cells, upregulated the enzymatic activity and the superoxide dismutase activity. It also improved vibrational motion of the cell membrane. So this low-level light energy has been used by acupunctural experts to stimulate the acupuncture meridian points. So these were some of the effects that were documented in the detailed experimentation. Mechanism of laser-induced hair growth has been very well studied and described by the Wellman Center for Photomedicine. You can approach this on their website, biomediclaser.org, published in April 2006. The main effects that they have recorded for hair: number one is photodissociation of inhibitory nitric oxide from the cytochrome oxidase chain in the mitochondria. The cytochrome oxidase is the respiratory chain in the mitochondria. Accumulation or binding of a nitric oxide to this chain reduces the efficiency of the chain of oxygen transfer. Release of nitric oxide allows more oxygen to come inside and improves the efficiency and function of the mitochondrial respiratory chain. This also results in increased formation of ATP, which is the powerhouse of the cells. More ATP molecules are generated to be used as energy for cellular functions. It also dissociates nitrolyzed hemoglobin and myoglobin, so removes nitric oxide from the nitrosylated hemoglobin and myoglobin, improving the efficiency of hemoglobin and myoglobin. The nitric oxide, which is dissociated and is released in the extracellular tissue, acts as a vasodilator and induces new vessel formation around the cells. So it improves the blood vessels around the cells. Factor promoting protein synthesis, cell proliferation, cell migration, and transcription of nuclear factor kappa B. So these are the mechanisms which are helping us in hair growth. Now the mechanism of nitric oxide has also been suspected to be the same mechanism that works in minoxidil. We have benefits with minoxidil for so many years, applying minoxidil on the scalp. Minoxidil is also known to act through nitric oxide mechanism. Is the effect that LLLT modulates 5-alpha reductase gene expression. It's being studied. Though we do not have confirmations, there are pros and cons and articles in favor and against it, not conclusive, but this is being studied. Vascular endothelial growth factor and upregulation is beneficial for hair growth, which happens with this mechanism. And there is downregulation of metalloproteins, thus reducing inflammation and immune response. So metalloproteins are the main proteins in the extracellular matrix, which participate in the propagation of inflammation and immunity. These are taken care of with the exposure to photobiostimulation and light therapy. It induces anagen. So follicles in catagen and telogen are recruited back into anagen by the effect of LLLT. In tissue cultures, there are 4 different peaks of DNA production that are found under various wavelengths of the light that was studied. The first peak is between 614 to 624 nanometers. The next peak is between 668 to 86 nanometers. Third is between 751 to 772, and the last peak is between 813 to 846. Commonly, what we use in our clinical application is the wavelength between 650 to 720 nanometers. Only data that is not available is tachyphylaxis or inhibition, reduction of the benefit with continuous usage. This data is awaited and has not been available even in long-term studies. They find that the LLLT is still as effective. So it's not that if you keep on using it for a few months, it loses its efficacy. This happens with some medicines or some drugs, which is called as tachyphylaxis, which is not seen as of yet with the LLLT. Various clinical trials have been conducted on low-level light therapy. Sachino in 2003 studied 28 male and 7 female pattern hair loss or androgenetic alopecia patients with 655 nanometer light used on alternate days for 24 weeks, reported improved vertex and temporal hair counts in men and women. After 2003, there was a very good study again by Matt Levitt in 2009. This is a double-blind, sham device-controlled, multi-centric randomized trial on 110 male pattern hair loss or male androgenetic alopecia patients. So in this trial, being double-blind, the user doesn't know whether he is using the true laser or the sham device. It is multi-centric, so this is not conducted in one center. It is happening in multiple centers where they are following the same protocol. It's a randomized trial, so they are not pre-selecting the patients, and has been done on 110 male patients. Again, using 655 nanometer device, 3 times a week for 26 weeks, reporting increase in terminal hair density, regrowth of hair, control of hair loss, thicker, better scalp hair with good body and shine in the hair. Next trial, we have one very good trial conducted in 2013, Lanzafam, double-blind randomized controlled trial in male androgenetic alopecia or male pattern hair loss. This device was very peculiar. The device has got 21.5 watt lasers and 30 non-laser class LEDs. So the energy created or the light created by the laser was distributed and conducted further or dispersed further on the scalp with simple LEDs. So these are mixed. The laser emitting diodes are mixed with regular LEDs to achieve the effect. The frequency used was 665 plus minus 5, what they have said, because this use of mixed normal LEDs, so they have a 5 nanometer wavelength variation. Used for 25 minutes on alternate days for 16 weeks, showing 35% increase in hair growth. And this study was the first one to report a 4 to 8 weeks period of telogen effluvium when the trial was using the laser device, just like you see increasing with muscle. Some of these patients had increased shedding in the initial 4 to 8 weeks trial. The trial was conducted for 16 weeks. Gemines in 2014 again did a multicentric randomized sham device controlled double-blind study. 128 male patients, 151 female patients, LLLT used 3 times a week for 26 weeks. Reporting increased hair counts, improvement of hair loss, improvement in hair thickness, and fullness of the hair. Various devices are available. Now we have seen that this device has got some scientific background. It has proper applications for our field of hair loss control and inducing new hair growth. Now let's check at what are these devices that are available with good scientific background. The first device that was approved and which was used was the laser comb, Hair Max laser comb. The disadvantage with the laser comb is people buy the comb, it's like a hairbrush, hold it in the hand and start combing their hair. The energy needs to be delivered in one place by holding the brush in one place for at least half to 1 minute. Now, when the manufacturers realize that this is happening and the energy does not get delivered, the device is being moved before the energy could get delivered, they introduced a buzzer after 4 or 5 seconds. So you have to wait in one place for nearly 6 to 10 of the buzzes to get adequate delivery of the energy. Then it works. So hold it in one place, move by 1 inch, then move by 1 inch, then move by 1 inch, keep going from front backwards, then keep going from side to side in like 3 or 4 rows over the scalp, and the entire treatment should take 18 to 20 minutes. Then you ensure that the energy was delivered to the follicles and you will get a benefit. So because this device was following poor on-patient compliance, the companies came out with a helmet. You can wear the helmet. It has got good number of diodes distributed all over the head, and it gives you equal energy, or it gives you energy, the laser being delivered or light being delivered to your entire head. These devices come in various types. There are portable devices which you can just plug in and use. There are professional looking devices which have a chair and a stand behind it with a large hood coming over the patient's head and delivering the energy. Looks very impressive. The device works the same. But what I'm interested in is the latest in this device, which is the laser cap. It has got a rechargeable battery. You charge a lithium ion battery. The patient can buy this device, use it personally at home. You keep the lithium ion battery in your pocket, wear the cap, go out for a walk, or wear it on the head while driving from home to office, and don't count the timing. Your laser therapy delivery is done. Common is the 82 diode laser cap, which takes 25 to 30 minutes for the energy to be delivered. If you select a cap with higher number of diodes, like 242 diodes, will finish the same kind of delivery of energy in 12 to 15 minutes. Very high number of diodes does not mean higher benefit. So I wouldn't recommend people spending money in very, very high number of diodes. The number of diodes should be reasonably good to achieve uniform distribution. Everything depends on the manufacturer and the layout of the diodes that has been done in the device. And the therapy can be completed within 10 to 15 minutes. It is very convenient. Or if you have a lesser number of diodes, the therapy can be completed within 25 to 30 minutes. The frequency I recommend for my Indian patients is 2 times a week. If you are dealing with Caucasian patients who have got fairer skin, they might require it 3 or 4 times. Anyway, it is safe to do any number of times that you like, but as long as the therapy is over within 20 to 30 minutes. So the laser cap is now giving better compliance. And when we use this laser for the hair transplant patients, we have used it to prepare the patient before the transplant to improve the hair quality so that you get good quality grafts when you're harvesting the grafts. We have also used it after the hair transplant. Now, 3 things are required for improving hair growth. Your stimulation, providing buildup for the stimulated cells to go forward in proliferation, cell division, and start growing, creating new hair, and proper scalp hygiene. Stimulation of the hair growth and using the hair growth laser or minoxidil application or capaxyl epigenin application or biomimetic peptides or PRP injections, growth factor injections, anything that you want to do. These are all various methods of. Once the stimulation is done, you want to propagate the benefit achieved by the stimulation by providing correct nutrients or building blocks. Here you need to combine it with nutritional therapy. And the third part is maintaining good scalp hygiene. The laser helps in reducing dandruff and maintaining good scalp hygiene as well. Another important factor I would like to stress in the role of this laser is, all of us know that the blood flow to the scalp comes from the periphery towards the center. It's centripetal. Larger vessels are on the edges of the scalp, and by the time they divide into smaller vessels and reach towards the center, there is formation of a watershed line in the mid-scalp area and over the area or the occipital wall area. So in occipital wall area, also because of the structure, because of the shape of the calvarium or the bones of the scalp, the skin which is stretched over this area is more prone to reduced blood flow and oxygenation, is one of the theories why hair loss begins in this area. So we knew that this is happening, but we did not have a method of improving the blood flow oxygenation to the scalp. Could we have? The low level light therapy can improve the blood flow and oxygenation to these areas and improve the perfusion and hair growth in these areas. Especially the occipital wall area will benefit a lot. And this effect, when used post-operatively, started 10 days after the hair transplant, will give you better skin healing. The scabs fall off faster. The hair growth, instead of beginning at 3.5 to 4 months, starts within 2.5 to 3 months. And it does give you an advantage. Also, the patient can buy this device, use it at home, or once or twice a week, come to your clinic and use it. Even if they do it once a week regularly, the device still gives you benefits. And once a week coming to your clinical setup for 30 minutes is no big deal for any patient. And if they are short of time, they can buy the device, keep it at home 2 times a week. That is what I do in my practice. So that is all, folks, that I wanted to share with you about the low-level light therapy, LLT. Have a few minutes, we'll try to take some questions. Otherwise, the Zoom meeting is on an auto timer. The Zoom application provides us only limited time to talk and discuss. So sometimes you just get cut off because the application stops transmitting. So a couple of questions if you have, you can type the questions in your chat box and I will try to take them and reply them. The questions that we miss, we will reply individually in the groups so that everybody gets the benefit of knowing the answer. In my practice, I'm using the Hair Pro laser cap, which is good. Before this, I was using the iGrow laser, which is also good. Both of them have got dealers in our country, in India, and have got very good follow-up, a very good post care. The therapy is typically recommended for at least 4 months. Minimum, if the patient wants to do, is at least minimum duration is 2 months, because 4 months is our telogen cycle, and we are trying to push follicles which are in telogen to come into anagen. So just a little bit of push you want, it can be used for 2 months, or good, you can use for 4 months. There is no harm in continuing it beyond. It can be safely used in children, safely used in pregnant women, safely used by people who are having diabetes, cardiac problems, who are on any other medication. The penetration of the light is hardly a millimeter below the skin, and it does not affect any other conditions. It works on its own, it doesn't interfere with any other treatments that are going on. It can be used in epileptics as well. It can be recommended for home use. US FDA has approved it as a personal use device that can be used by any person at home. Just like you use an electric shaver at home or any device, this can be used. It's approved for personal use. Does not require supervision of the doctor to use that. So that were few good questions to ask. Any more questions? You can type. Cost of the device varies between, I think the recent device we bought was around $750 US. So varies, say, around 55,000 for a 82 diode device.